All right. To start as an introduction, I would like to ask you for a brief statement. What is one specific thing that AI has already changed in your company or industry that has a direct impact on managing the organization? And let's start with Róża. So you have the microphone.
All right, thanks. I almost thought I'd manage to make a hot potato microphone to hand it over quickly, but I didn't make it. Hi, everyone. Thanks to Ola for starting. Thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to be able to chat with you here. To briefly answer that question, what changed in my company? I run an organization that is a repeatable interim solution for human problems in organizations. So as you know, it is the hardest to optimize and average, to systematize something that it's protein-based, meaning human, or at least that's what many people think. And what we do is heavily automate onboarding. So we show that implementation can be very repeatable, just as human processes and mechanisms in organizations can be repeatable. So what we writing down the repetitive things that happen in organizations changed a lot for me, and how client onboarding starts, how problem solving begins, working with resistance, and all those issues abundant in the human area, as we know. And for people to quickly and efficiently learn this and know how to maintain that repetitiveness.
Robert?
I thought it would be a potato, but it will stay with me. Hello, everyone. I am, it seems, the only representative of the production company, which might seem not very digitized or exposed to artificial intelligence. Nothing could be further from the truth. We have a fantastic D30 strategy in which we are changing a lot of things towards digitization, digitalization, and also artificial intelligence. But if I had to choose one thing that practically changes, since last year, in fact, our work has focused on excellent image recognition. This is a system we are implementing in stores, which involves, based on photographs, algorithms quickly analyze the layout of our goods. Also, how these goods are selling, and in real time, we receive information, which is definitely our competitive advantage. And we introduced it last year, and it seems to work very well.
Before I tell you what we automate at AirHelp, I don't know if you all know my company. We help airline passengers recover paying compensation for cancelled or rescheduled flights. We automate so much that I can't pick one thing. We also have an automation score in the company. Right now it's at 70%, and believe me, we don't take everything into account here because some things are 100% automated. We don't even measure those where we have 100%. However, we work a lot with documents. We work across Europe and beyond, basically worldwide. We verify really tens of thousands or probably hundreds of thousands of documents annually. And AI helps us a lot with this. Just recently, we implemented new systems. They are just starting to learn, but they help with classifying, for example, documents and in the recognition and verification to see if they are correct.
Thank you very much. Let's perhaps delve a bit more broadly into the key areas of change. And again, Rose, next person, please go ahead.
Potato navigation. Good. I would like to go a bit wider.
And to ask about your perspective on how AI is changing HR as a whole area, recruitment, employee development, or maybe the very structure of HR departments.
Yeah, okay, I know there's not much time, so I'll cut this story down from 7 hours to a few minutes. Basically, what needs to be said about arranging the human area is, besides just that, we'll probably also discuss these concerns that people have, these barriers. Why are they afraid of automation? Why don't they want to, for example, feed databases and simply want to avoid their work being systematized? Well, the same goes for the automation of the human area. For example, automating, as you said, recruitment. It's a topic that starts
Do they
to.
know each other at
And
all?
what needs to be said is happening on a very large scale today. It starts with such a topic. Structuring the work of HR professionals. We don't have a huge scale. We support around 30 to 40 companies each month. We have worked with about 200 companies in recent years, and we've researched the last 100. And we see on such a scale that what is most interesting, what's only 1 in 4 companies has an organized HR area,
Please
in
continue.
the sense that it's known
Halina.
Anna does HR business partnering and Christina only recruits. See that even at the level of division of work, and here I include corporate organizations and large companies, which would seem to be, well, the system is in place and everything is divided. However, it turns out that 75% of HR is just one big ongoing crisis, jumping from problem to problem. So in order to even be able to organize some area, and the same applies here. I will be interested in, of course, your opinions on how it is systematized and arranged from your close perspective. However, what I see is the problem is that very often HR says, this is a soft area, people are different, it cannot be automated. Of course, it can be done, but for it to be possible in any sensible way, and to avoid one big stereotyping, as was the case in those early attempts at using, for example, bots for Tion. Still, these positions need to be described and named somehow. And here, I'm not talking about, corporate naming, those kinds of general cliches, but truly to say, if we have 3 people in a team, what each person does. And this is something that is actually beginning to happen on a large scale. It would seem that we are much further along. It would seem that, I often get questions like, okay, how much of recruitment is done by writing something in white font on a CV because a bot reads it? Of course, there are such processes, people do that, and it happens. However, the real scale is entirely elsewhere. That is, at the beginning, it is necessary to organize, describe things, and introduce any structuring and schematization to be able to scale it sensibly.
So, essentially, the attempt to prepare for AI leads to companies starting to structure, document their processes, and organize themselves.
That people start, talking about how the human area is some black box, difficult to describe, impossible to forecast. Well, a magical wound. No, it isn't.
Robert, Mars Wrigley is a giant, right? You have very complex global operations, supply chains. Where do you see the greatest potential of AI? Here, I would like to focus on managing such a corporation. Indeed, a big company. Referring to what Róża said, 150,000 protein interfaces worldwide, which of course can be digitized in some way, and they are digitized. We are. However, of course, in our scale of operations, this digitization and also with elements of AI is throughout the entire value chain, starting from cocoa plantations in equatorial Africa, where, for example, we map plots and cocoa plantations using satellites and GPS. This means that farmers working with us must have all these measured. In this way, we prevent deforestation, meaning we ensure that 100% of the cocoa, it comes from responsible sources. This is one of the examples throughout the entire supply chain. And the factories, last week I happened to be at our factories in Poznań, where there is a chewing gum factory. 3 million pieces of gum are produced there per hour. 40 countries, over 40 countries receive our products. And in Janaszowek, chocolate bars and M&Ms, where 3,200,000 Snickers bars are produced daily this time. Why am I talking about this? Because there, listen, automation and robotization are so advanced.
Cobotism.
So robots that directly cooperate with the worker at the workplace in a large, gigantic hall where there is a Snickers production line, well, 8 people work, right? And mainly with a tablet in hand. And what we do in terms of AI support. For example, regarding the production process, we make such charts, a digital twin of the factory where we monitor all processes in real time throughout the entire plant. That's one thing. Another issue is the matter, which I already mentioned, meaning the end customer. We know exactly what is being sold, how it is being sold, and how to manage the supply chain.
Yes.
The matter, of course, of usage. Hey, AI, for managing global processes. This is super important. In Warsaw, we have Global Mars Global Services, a center that essentially services the entire world in various processes. And there are also processes related to AIs are very advanced. At the end of this rather long statement, I'll add that we are working on our own chat GPT or Copilot, or whatever we will call it, because it will be available in a closed loop only for employees whom we call associates. Because everyone is a co-owner of the company, even though they do not hold shares. Anyway, we don't want, listen, we don't want to risk that our processes and our knowledge spread somewhere for open systems to learn from. Therefore, we have a closed system. Currently, tests with limited access are underway. We have managers who handle this, and I think that in 1 or 2 years, we will simply have our own information sourcing. Thank you. Irena, my favorite topic. Let's talk a bit about customer service. Please tell us how AI is revolutionizing customer service, lightly, suggestively. Is it mainly automation or perhaps something more? And importantly, how does it affect the traditional roles of employees who have been handling customer service until now? Are they still engaged in it?
Well, now I can't say that it doesn't revolutionize. It definitely changes things for me. And this is what I am most counting on, that it will relieve agents. Because I don't know how many of you started your career as, or perhaps still have a career in customer service. I believe it is one of the most stressful office roles that one can possibly imagine. And I really hope that, among other things, AI agents will relieve agents from these repetitive tasks, and repetitive parts of customer service, so that they can truly focus on delivering real value, on empathy, on being human. AI, as the name implies, will always be artificial, no matter how smart it is. And even if it could process all the information faster than all of us here, well, it will never be human. It will never be able to convey such true emotions, because we also know that we can program an agent to respond in a certain way, but it will never be a human. So I hope that AI will truly relieve agents, relieve them also from what they don't like. At AirHelp, our customer support works 24/7. This is nothing exceptional today.
Sure.
However, we know that no one likes
Co
to
by
work
było gdyby?
in these afternoon and night shifts. So I
We are
hope we'll bring
conducting-
this system to a level where it will truly be fully autonomous, that it won't, as it's recently said, hallucinate. It will
Where?
be, they will simply provide correct answers to all clients, regardless of what time zone they are in. And we here, we won't have to work through the nights. So that is definitely very important. I hope AI will be like a right hand in customer service. However, much is being said about AI as if customer service is the first top professions that will be completely replaced by artificial intelligence. I think it will not happen for a long time. We are not able to fully automate everything to the extent that our customers expect. However, what is certainly important and what is already happening is that we are automating these repetitive tasks and taking that burden off of us, the employees.
And do you expect that any new roles will emerge with the increased level of AI in customer service? Or
I think that here, well, customer service employees, because they will be partially replaced, not completely, but partially, will have to find other occupations. And one of those occupations will be, among other things, controlling. Oh, here we have some kind of timer. Okay, but can I
I'm
still
sorry.
speak? Okay.
Well, but it's a bit.
They will definitely have to control that artificial intelligence because exactly it's still not perfect. And let's remember that these artificial agents work on databases and someone has to oversee the updates of these databases. If the database is bad, then obviously such a bot will supply incorrect information. So I think that thanks to this, the front office work, when the agent responds on live chat, will shift somewhat to the back office, and he will be able to dedicate himself analysis of what the artificial intelligence did and the quality of how it did it, and maintaining the accuracy of the database it uses.
don't you think that these repetitive tasks are sometimes like a break from solving those complex tasks? That the cognitively demanding tasks will now be only for human agents, and AI will handle these simple tasks, and human agents will only be burdened with these very complex tasks, and it will be harder. It's like those simple tasks that sometimes relieve us will simply disappear.
That's true that it will be more difficult, but it will also give us growth. Many of us talk about growth in work, and these repetitive tasks take away our space for development. So probably yes, they will have to focus on more difficult clients, but to focus on a more difficult client, they will have to take a step further in their development. However, well, this definitely needs to be balanced, right? Because indeed, if the burden with such difficult tasks is nonstop, no one will be able to endure that. But on the other hand, well, it will always be necessary. One will need to learn to work differently because, as I said, this work will shift more to the back office. And for example, if I work on a database and verify
mock mistakes
for example,
who-
those that AI did, I don't know, in chats this month, well, this is the moment when I can take a breather and when I'm not handling some of the most difficult clients that AI, for instance, couldn't manage.
What will I be a record of?
Continue this topic of staffing because many people perceive it not only as opportunities but also as threats. I'm wondering right away, microphone to the expert, what do you see as the biggest concerns employees have about AI, and what are the most important skills needed in the future to fully utilize this technology's potential? And a bit of a bonus question, how can companies effectively support employees in this transformation?
Okay, thanks. So I'll start with the first topic, also referring a little to what you said. Sorry for addressing you informally, but my eyesight is poor. I can't see what you have written, what lines you have. The topic is the general fear of AI. It's one big attribution error concert. I won't go into psychological analysis or act like a know-it-all here. However, generally, the problem is that I perceive my tasks as much more difficult, much more complex, and absolutely not automatable, in contrast to how I perceive the tasks of other people. This is our biggest problem today when it comes to job automation. So even if we look at research quite extensive as it involves the Polish labor market, a study of 10,000 people plus, that's already a large study. We generally have a problem with large samples in the Polish labor market. And when we ask such a large sample of employees at various levels of positions and ask them how large a portion of the positions of their colleagues they work with daily will be automated in the future, people respond with roughly 70-80%. Meanwhile, when asked about how it will look regarding their duties, well, of course, here we have a 10-20% no, and that is exactly. It means we underestimate the possibilities of automating our work while we overestimate or assess adequately the possibilities of automating others' work. And that is the biggest problem. Moving to answering the second question, to be able to recognize it well, meaning to have good enough managers, people who manage this work, to truly detach status evaluation from whether someone can be relieved from these automated tasks or not. That is the most difficult issue today. The problem is that we already have initial experiences where we say we automate everything. It's simple, and then we have to somehow maneuver. However, truly saying what is repetitive, what is systematic, what repeats itself, and what we can actually automate. This is usually the role of managers, and it is super important to be what I call a Renaissance person, somewhat old-fashioned. However, the ability to connect the dots is something that most managers in Europe and the States pay attention to when it comes to such. No?
Prince B.
Who would they like to hire? So what we're used to, I don't know about you. I don't want to judge by faces. I don't know about you, sorry. Yes, well, I think most of us here are millennials. We were taught in school that specialization is victory. However, today it's rather the skill of seeing such victory.
Just
Speaking in Old Polish, meaning to look from a distance, to connect the dots, to foresee what will happen in 2 steps. This is a skill we really need because specializations, of course, I am speaking at a very high level of generalization, but most such things that are well described can be well found. Described. Thanks to this, they can also be automated. These are things that are very narrowly specialized. And this is very often very difficult. Well, the topic of doctors, the topic of lawyers is something that is also associated with high social status. And people who perform such tasks are not accustomed to the fact that their work may become automated. However, today we see that, well, systems evaluating patients or diseased areas make mistakes far fewer times than the most experienced human, even a doctor. So this ability to connect the dots, first of all. Secondly, so-called ownership, and by that I mean such thinking 2 steps ahead. So what will happen next? What else needs to be taken care of? These are indeed such skills that are very necessary. And the third thing I would point out is giving feedback. When we look at European studies, not only from business psychology institutes, but also at practice in general, there is a need for change today, such pivotability of entire organizations, teams. Generally, we are in one big change management, and it's not easy for anyone. That is, people who talk about how change is great and they love change. Well, they say it's more culturally, not according to their brain, which likes old things, likes repetitive things, because that's how it survived, right? So the fact that we are able to receive feedback, implement changes, and truly be flexible, but not just verbally. Don't just say, oh yes, openness, curiosity about the world, yada, yada. Okay, when was the last time you made a significant change in your team? In 68, right? So that's the problem, that this feedback ability, the true experienced kind, is something that, unfortunately, despite being, well, millennials are, you could say, fairly young, it is indeed quite rare today in Europe. And it is such a future skill that I would pay a lot of attention to.
Irena Robert.
Well, I don't know if I'll hit the mark, but I'll start with a Renaissance person who can connect the dots. This is exactly the skill we need. And I would add that these dots are provided to us by artificial intelligence, or increasingly will be provided based on analytics, based on well, algorithms that simply make it easier for us to acquire information. And I think that's the right combination, right? We will indeed regain some freedom. Here, Irena said that artificial will never be so human that it has stopped being artificial. Yes, indeed. Its problem is that it is still artificial, but it is less and less so. And it seems that there will be more and more processes and areas that will slip a bit out of our control. And here lies the danger. But on the other hand, new ones will emerge that we will operate or control. Besides, as I mentioned about those 8 of our colleagues who hold those tablets in that big hall, well, someone really needs to hold those plugs, possibly unplug them. Regarding future competencies, I might add, because you mentioned this readiness for change, pivotability, and so on. And it so happens that I teach classes at SWPS. They are called career strategies, and there I reference a book that I really like, authored by Reid Hoffman. He is the co-founder of LinkedIn. The book is titled The Startup of You, and it proposes that we should treat our careers or our approach to reality, including to AI, like running a startup. And it's known that in a startup, we have to be alert, ready for change, ready to step out of the comfort zone you mentioned, and just reinventing oneself means inventing oneself anew, right? Repeatedly. And it seems to me that this is the process that awaits us. That means nothing will ever be the same. We must be ready for constant change.
I absolutely agree here, but there's one trait I would add, which I think you didn't mention, and that is critical thinking. And that is related to what I mentioned earlier. This intelligence is still artificial and we are still the ones controlling it. However, we also see how easy it is to become enamored with it. We see how easy it would be to succumb to its charm. Perhaps you have come across articles that talked about how a chat named Erin, he was saying, trying to persuade someone to commit suicide. Yes, these are not isolated stories, so the ability to think critically must be nurtured now from the youngest age. And those of us who don't possess it sufficiently yet must really approach information obtained through artificial intelligence with increasing caution, because we are flooded with this information and it's easy to simply absorb it.
Without that
critical
criticism.
thinking, and that is definitely crucial. The second
Is
thing,
this here
we have already talked a bit about change, but this is resilience, that popular, recently trendy word, anti-fragility. And it is really crucial because exactly already today, nothing is certain. And the most certain thing is that everything is uncertain. And indeed, we cannot afford to bunker down in our silos. We cannot afford not to change. Without change, there is no progress. That's clear. So resilience, adapting to reality is what we are doing now, right? Artificial intelligence is emerging. I heard there's no AI, only there is quantum AI, right? Quantum AI is already working on something new. So we'll also have to adapt to that. And the third trait I've also thought about is curiosity. Yes, we touched on this a bit. It's like we can say we like changes and so on, but they are always difficult. They are always stressful. However, this approach, exactly, I'm curious about what's going to happen, really gives us a huge space to becoming happier people, because if we don't worry if something goes wrong, we are curious. It didn't go right. It's interesting that it didn't go right. We can fix it. So resilience, curiosity, and what did I say at the beginning? I already forgot.
We are running out of time. Therefore, in one sentence to conclude, I would like to ask you for a kind of summary. In your opinion, what is the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat from
related to AI in organizational management?
I have a microphone, so I'll start.
I need
Tear
to
down our order. I think first a chance.
But most of the
briefly, I
pew-
really won't take much more time. This is the speed. Automation of repetitive tasks, right? So optimization of the process, improving efficiency. However, the biggest threat here, we haven't talked much about it, but for me, it is data security. That's exactly cybersecurity. because, well, we know today how easy it is to obtain this data, how it can sometimes be misused when accessed in an unauthorized way. So the biggest threat is definitely the lack of data security.
Oh, what a turn, please. I would definitely like to talk about the recovery of human potential, where one can focus on individualities. We automate most repetitive things to regain time for what is unique. It's about this, it's like saying that a person is so individual and is 100% individual. You know perfectly well that in customer success and in any other process, most things are repetitive, but precisely those most difficult clients, those most difficult cases you mentioned, are there for someone to take them and truly deliver what is the biggest repetitive and done on a large scale. And that is the biggest opportunity, and I have a lot of enthusiasm for it here.
I'm going to
I must say, I played this quite well, as I have the last word. I'm really happy. Yes. I would say something somewhat in line with what you are saying, that we will indeed regain some time and space thanks to artificial intelligence for more ambitious things, let's say, not those repetitive ones. The question is whether someone will want to pay us for these things. Because, and here as if I'm going to the market right now. However, cost efficiency in markets that are increasingly competitive and will be competitive, it is the most important. Therefore, if companies, and we can delude ourselves in different ways here, right? But if companies see an interest in transferring even more processes to artificial intelligence or some form of automation, then they will be transferred. The question is whether there will be enough new professions, or will new things appear that we can do, which will take care of that. Well, it seems so, because there is simply a very big acceleration here. Besides, as I say, if we approach ourselves like startups, we will be inventing all the time. Something new is needed. And I think that's the optimistic note on which I could end. Is there a question, right?
Yes, because today I received the information that the United States is also using it for military purposes, and that this is also a direction of development. A person does not yet know if there have been any achievements so far.
It certainly is. I have a certain view on this matter, but let me not share it for obvious reasons. Maybe Róża, you...
That is to say, what we know officially, and what is probably not a matter of opinion, is that, well, for example, in the war in Ukraine, automation was used for object recognition, and that their accuracy was, and here I don't want to enter into a discussion about whether it's good or bad. Their accuracy was much higher than that of humans. So unfortunately, it's the same area as any other when it comes to the possibility of automation. And here I understand that these are the risks you were talking about, that indeed. Would you like to say something? Yes, exactly. So does this mean, are there areas that should be exempt from automation? Well, we have attempts to regulate this, just like everyone laughs at Europe for regulating while the United States invents. Well, for now, we see that these regulations are, well, they are quite delayed compared to the development of innovation. It has always been this way. So would we like to exclude some areas from automation? We would. Is it possible? Not necessarily. We can probably do it retroactively, can't we? I mean, regulating with some delay. But what happens in the initial innovative impulses is usually difficult to regulate, isn't it?
Perhaps in one more sentence. I think that the same mechanisms that apply to business will apply to other areas. If something is effective, if it is efficient, if it is profitable, then artificial intelligence will indeed be introduced there. And I would say rather introduced in all areas than that there will be any exceptions.
Thank you.
probably already, unfortunately, during the networking session. Maybe Irena will still.
I don't know if that was a question for me.
In connection with management and agents. It is said, whether it's Altman or others, that we will that AI will take on the role, right? That's why agents are being created. Are those concepts, and I'm very curious if there's already some exploration of this topic in your companies, if you have, as if you use such a concept and it actually has its role from A to Z. Then it's passed on to a human are you implementing it in such a way, or do you think about agendas like, it's like in another concept where it's part of the process, and in fact it's just a kind of computer cabaret doing something better than a year ago?
I'm glad that I have a microphone. Because in my company, all bots, yes, they are bots. Not everything is AI, but each one has a name, like Zowie. We have Aga, we have Ada, we have Dora. So every bot responsible for a part of the process has a name. I don't even remember how many we have, probably a dozen or so. So yes, we assign them roles. We are still working on an AI agent in customer support, and I think it will also be given a name. So in some way we personalize.
Thank you very much for this discussion. Did you want to give me the microphone?